Hey YouTube, this is EvanMagician34, and I've got my regional championships Pokemon deck, for which any of you who went, you get this cool foily Bagon promo for it. I'm sure some collector somewhere wants that. But anyway, I took my Plasma deck there. I got, after 9 rounds on day 1, it took me to 29th, so I played top 32 for 5 more rounds the next day, which I wasn't expecting this whole thing to run as long as it did, but it was good attendance. I ended up making 21st there, so got a lot of packs, got some pro points and whatnot. Pretty cool. The deck I took, I'll give you my deck report. There'll be a link down below in the description if you're curious. If you want to see my matches, so you can get a better feel of the meta and what it is right now. I took a really aggro Team Plasma deck, so here it is. I'm running 4 copies of Deoxys EX, just because 4 is an excellent number because you always want to get them as much as you can, slap them down on your bench. If you can get 4, great, because they all are plus powers, permanent plus powers, so why wouldn't you run them? Definitely 4, gives you that speed element, that breakneck. And they attack pretty well too, as a bonus. 3 Tornadus EX, he powers your stuff up, and after all your Pokemon with Plasma Energies, your first one or so gets knocked out, this guy brings it back to power up the next one. Plus Juniper can set him up early game. Pretty awesome guy, lots of HP, Riding Knuckles, amazing. Thunderous Noise is an okay mid to late game attack if you get into a situation where you might need it. Doesn't stink, might be able to bury him with card disadvantage on that. That's 7 out of my 11 Pokemon, all the rest are 1-ofs, starting with Lugia EX. Mainly just because of his overflow, he's kind of difficult to attack with sometimes, but the trade-off is this guy can make 3 prizes, essentially 1 knockout away from a win, which is awesome, because an EX and a QREM can definitely be thrown your way, leaving you at 3 prizes, and your opponent feels like they're pretty safe. You can set this guy up really easily with Thundurus and, say, a Chloris machine and a double colorless in 2 turns. So this guy can really come in surprisingly for some knockouts. 2 colorless machines plus double colorless actually means this guy can attack in 1 turn. It's a thing. Plus he's got fighting resistance, which is quite useful in this deck. Most Plasma decks run more than 1 QRM. I'm only running 1. He's a little fragile, really, is the bottom line, and he's kind of energy intensive and his retreat's quite high. While he's certainly not a bad card, I don't like that he can so often slow you down and be an easy target for mid-game Pokemon catchers. And without Keldeo in this variant, Blizzard Burn is not as easy to abuse, so we're just running the 1 basically to pick stuff off with Frost Spear, and it can be an okay starter. My last 2 cards are extremely techy, and they also definitely separated me from the pack of the other Plasma decks there that day. Got nothing but praise for these 2 cards. First is Tornadus EX. He boasts 180 HP, which is significant in certain matchups like Darkrai, where you could take like 30-30 and 110 pretty easily. Say with like Hypnotoxic, 1 Spear hit, and then a 110 point direct Spear hit. That's 170, which isn't a knockout on this guy, which is pretty cool. But basically, his Windfall, you can easily Plasma Ball this guy if your hand's not that great. Windfall it's Oak's new theory, it's 6 new cards, and shuffles your hand away so you don't have to waste a bunch of supporters or something if they're not what you needed. This guy makes your hand good in games that are slow. Or where you, say, run down low on cards mid-game, this guy can restock you and he's hard to one-shot. Plus Jet Blast, with only like 2 energies on him, just like you probably would do for Lugia, he can hit for 120. And unlike Lugia, you don't have to continually power him up with other energies. He's just good to go, and you can focus on other things. Or if you don't have resources, doesn't matter. Jet Blast is just a KOing machine. Bottom line, especially with Hypnotoxic Verbank. So this guy's quite awesome. I actually swept a few people just with this guy by setting him up. He's a very big threat. Very solid. Nothing but praise for him. Plus he can use DCE. That doesn't suck. Last card, almost every opponent who saw it had to read it, and it ended up beating them, which made it twice as funny. And that's Zapdos EX. He's got a nice little 2 energy attack here. Agility. That's a coin toss chance of him being bulletproof, basically, which is awesome. Early in mid game, you can set him up, and he basically often provokes players into wasting Pokemon catchers. And that's important because often who plays out their catchers first is the one who loses, because the other one then gains that advantage and control. And you can start switching up damage sponges with lots of HP to buy time and so on. So agility is amazing, and late game power volt's basically just 120 base. All he needs is plasma energy. That's incredibly easy to do. And he features fighting resistance just like Tornadus and Lugia. So yeah, this guy's amazing. I have nothing but praise for him. Late game, you can steal turns from people literally just by getting the coin flip on agility. Once again, because they've probably played out their catchers by that point. And 1 energy retreat does not suck. So yeah, Zapdos and Tornadus EX, They're amazing. Into the supporters, we're running 4 Junipers, of course. I mean, it does set up Thundurus, but I'd run this times 4 in virtually every deck anyway. It's drawing 7 is awesome. You don't mind pitching to get it. You know, don't be afraid to pitch what you don't need to get what you do. We're only running 3 copies of N. Main reason for that is because we're playing a much faster deck than most other decks in the meta. So as a result, N can often be more painful than helpful, like mid to late game. Only in the early game is this guy really good for drawing the cards. I mean, you still want him for that, but beyond that, he can be a very problematic supporter later on. So we're dumping a copy of him to make room for other things. 3 Colress, because this deck frequently loads its bench up very quickly. Just dump those Deoxys out, use this guy, rip more cards. Simple as that. Plus your opponent's usually helping you out. We got 3 copies of Skyla. I've tried 2, and it's just not quite enough. I mean, even on her worst day, she still goes and fetches you that Juniper or whatever you need. And there are just so many good supporters or trainers in this deck that the deck is literally over half trainers. So obviously a card that fishes for anyone you want out of your deck. Good. She can also get Dowsing Machine RA spec. So yeah, really solid. Can't really say anything bad about it. 4 is too much. They stack up, but 3 is just right. 1 Shadow Triad, we got a million targets for this, including, say, Plasma Energy itself, Plasma Ball, Hypnotoxic Laser, so on and so forth. You can even get Colress Machine with it. So, it's just good. You don't want more than the 1, but the 1 is enough because it's essentially adding an extra copy of every Plasma card in your deck to your deck. So, yeah, you want it. Alright, and as for the trainers really make this deck. What makes this deck so awesome is the incredible consistency and drawing power. 4 Plasma Ball because it's costless, so it's always good, always viable. It gets you not only the immediate Pokemon you need right there to help set up in those first couple turns, but also it's thinning your deck out. So even when you don't necessarily need it because your bench is full, you still fire it to improve your odds of drawing whatever you need from the rest of your deck. So it's a statistician's best friend. 4 Plasma Balls, absolutely. 3 copies of Colress Machine. The 4th will virtually never have a target, so we're just dropping it, because, duh. I wouldn't run 4 unless I was running, like, 4 Lugias or something. Powers your stuff up, makes, 2 energy attacks, turn 1 attacks, helps get almost everything in the deck firing just a turn sooner, actually, so quite solid there. 2 Verbanks, because we're running Laser Bank, straight up. 2 to make sure prizes don't have much chance of messing us up. To support our 4 Hypnotoxic Lasers, because it's basically, with the the bank in this, it's 30 damage a turn, and if your opponent for some reason doesn't retreat, then that's awesome. And the sleep hacks, 1 out of every 4 shots, does put them to sleep, and with 4 lasers, we'll probably fire 4 or more in a game, which means 1 of those will be a free sleep on our opponents, forcing a switch, or maybe even locking them out for a turn if we're lucky. So it's a wonderful card, Hypnotoxic. 4 catchers, because it still doesn't require a coin flip as of when I'm making this video, and it gives you such momentum and power, and on its worst day, it still gets rid of a big threat by switching it for something with a high retreat that may not be able to switch out. This locks up games by knocking out things that had a little bit of damage on the bench, that kind of thing. 3 copies of Switch, because Switch Overkill deals a little bit better, and after all, Floatstone doesn't get around sleep from laser and stuff, so yeah, Switch is solid and awesome, easy to Dowsing and Skyla for. 1 copy of Tool Scrapper, because, Bangle and Floatstone are problematic, and there is Sigilif running around out there, I guess. So yeah, 1 copy of Tool Scrapper. Because 1's enough, you can Skyla and Dowsing for it, if you need it again. And then we've got Dowsing Machine, just because, so much of the deck, you can access it with this, and the other cards get other things you might need. Computer Search can be a little undesirable late game, but this thing's always good. So we do opt for Dowsing Machine here. It's never really disappointed me. It's good for getting Hypnotoxic and whatnot. Energies are real simple. 4 Plasma, because the deck runs on Plasma. We got 4 Prism Energies, because it's just, everything in the deck likes Prism. 1 Blend, because it's basically another Prism. 2 Lightnings to help get around Hammer and whatnot, keep Thundurus happy. And then 2 Double Colorless, because that's really all you need just for the few Pokemon who use it, because most of them just want Plasma Plus. So anyway, that's the deck, and until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and check out my channel for more cool gaming content.